Hi everyone, hope you're well. Chris Cowlin here. Now before we get into it, I'd just like to inform you about a new website selling quality current and retro Spurs jerseys, okjersey.com. They sell all current and retro Tottenham Hotspur shirts in all sizes. They sell the current fan and player versions as well as the 80s and 90s retro shirts, including my very favourite, the 1991 FA Cup final shirt. You can order very easily from okjersey.com, and if you use the code Chris, you will receive an 8% discount off your final order. You can also use the QR code on the top left of your screen. And by the way, they also have some training wear here and the 25-26 colour special edition jersey. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Daily Tottenham Transfer News Show. My name is Chris Cowlin and this evening I'll be joined by Craig Dearman. Now we'll be covering all of the latest Spurs news, rumours and reports. We're here every single day on YouTube, Facebook and X talking transfers. And today is the 9th of January and we have 24 days left of the January transfer window. Of course, the window closes on the 2nd of Feb at 7 p.m. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, please do make sure you hit that subscribe button, press like, comment below and turn on that notification bell so YouTube informs you every single time we upload a video and go live. Craig, good evening. How are you?
Good evening. Yes, not too bad. Not too bad.
Craig, we're going to start with a here we go. We have got the here we go from Fabrizio Romano, day 9 of the January transfer window, and it looks like we have our first signing in the door for Thomas Frank. Souza to Tottenham, here we go, deal in place for 15 million euros fee as verbal agreement has been reached. Travel scheduled on Sunday after deal agreed, and Santos accepting payment terms, documents to be exchanged this weekend and then all sealed. Now, also reports in Brazil today, they are stating that Tottenham have sealed the signing of Souza. Santos will receive 15 million euros between fixed and variable payments. They are in the lawyer's phase. Contract for 5 seasons until June 2031. He is expected to travel to London between Sunday and Monday to undergo the medical examination and sign. And Sky Sports in England, on this story, they have stated that Tottenham have agreed a £13 million fee for Santos left-back Souza and deal for 19-year-old who on radar for Ancelotti's Brazil squad at World Cup is close to being finalised and player has agreed in principle to the move. Now, Craig, what do you make of this one?
Well, it's good. We've got a sign-in, to be honest. It's not one that's going to get loads of people really excited, probably, because it's another player that's probably for the future more than for the now. Good fee, I suppose you can look at it like that. But I suppose it's good that we've actually got a left back and we've actually got a player in the troublesome sort of position for us. So let's hope he's as good as everybody says he is, and that he can hit the ground running and that he settles in quickly, because that's going to be key to him challenging Destiny Udogie for a place in the starting lineup, you'd think.
I was going to say that actually for me, I think this is a much better situation that Spurs are in, getting a left back in this window, because of course Jed Spence has always deputised for Udogie when he's been out for whatever reason, and I suppose there can be more rotation now on the right-hand side with Pedro Porro, because like Thomas Frank has said many times, the amount of game time that Pedro Porro has had this last 12 months or so under, 2 managers, it will free up him to have a rest every now and then.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how players get injured, right? By overplaying them. And if we've got 4 decent fullbacks, it's going to really help the cause, definitely, because he's never good. Jed Spence he would say he's a right back, like you say. So he's going to say that should be him and Porro competing for that position. So hopefully it all depends on how forward advanced this Souza is, and if he can adapt to the Premier League quickly, I suppose.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Some players do take a long time to adapt to the Premier League. Some very, very quickly. Let's hope that he plays in a Spurs shirt in the near future and he does well. And like you said, it's great having two players now in that position. Craig, before you come into your one, I'm going to talk about this one very quickly. Reports in France today, Tottenham at the moment don't like the idea of sending Matisse Tel out on loan. Of course, early on in the window, we were hearing reports from various outlets that Spurs were open on letting Matisse Tel go out on a loan deal until the end of the season. Galatasaray were one of those clubs being linked to the France under-21 star. For me, I think that this is the right call because, of course, we let Brennan Johnson go out the door. We've got injuries to Mohamed Kudus and various other players. This is the right thing to do, isn't it? Keep hold of him at the moment. And I think it's fair to say as well, in his last couple of appearances, we talk a lot on the podcast about grabbing opportunities. And I think that Matisse Tel has done that.
Yeah, it is important he stays around at the moment, depending on obviously what the Spurs do in the transfer window. I suppose if he's going to go out on loan or anywhere, it's going to be a late deal if that happens indeed. But at the moment, we need all the players we can get. We've got a game tomorrow. The team more or less picks itself. You'd imagine Tel should be in that starting 11, so he's going to get another start. Probably going to be out of Muani and Richarlison, play up front, and that's it. Pretty much the rest of the team picks itself. So very important to hold on to Matisse Tel at the moment. And as you say, he really grabbed his opportunity. He played well, I thought, actually, during the week in the loss at Bournemouth. So if he can carry on doing that, great, But I still think we need strengthening in that left-wing position, as we all know.
Oh, yes.
Brings me on to a story from Di Marzio today. Stated that we've heard this one before, but there seems to be more strength behind this now that Roma are interested in signing Radu Dragusin, probably on loan with a possible obligation to buy in the summer. Now, obviously, the player's just come back from an ACL injury. Is he likely to get minutes under Thomas Frank when Van der Ven and Romero are fit? Probably not. He's probably fourth choice centre-back. So I suppose the question is, can we afford a centre-back to go? Would Spurs be prepared to do that? Would they bring in somebody else to replace him? Or are they thinking we can manage to the end of the season with Ben Davies filling in as the fourth one and then Vuskovic comes in the summer? Would I be against Dragusin going? No, I probably wouldn't. If they can get a decent fee for him, there's probably better out there. But how do you keep anybody happy when your two centre-backs are Mickey van der Ven and Christian Romero? So I guess it's going to be up to numbers, isn't it? Whether the club feel that that's the right move for them.
He's had a tough time at Spurs, Craig, and I think that sometimes I think everyone needs to admit it hasn't worked out, and I don't think that Radu is going to get a lot of game time at all under Thomas Frank, and he's come back from this injury, been out for so long, and he wants game time. We hear his agent come out all the time, saying about game time and wanting to be a starter at Tottenham. It's a hell of a challenge, trying to get in before Mickey van der Ven and Christian Romero. But of course, Spurs need to think about the long term as well. So we're hearing reports today from the Daily Telegraph that Mickey van der Ven is unhappy at Tottenham. We've heard lots of different reports. I would say they're not from the most reliable journalists at the moment about Mickey van der Ven wants out in the summer at Tottenham because of his unhappiness. I've got to admit, in the time that, under Thomas Frank this season, whenever we've lost a game, particularly at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, he looks pretty annoyed. And if you go by body language, you can tell that he is not happy. He is a top quality player. And this is the only thing that worries me about Spurs at the moment. Finishing 17th last year, of course, we won the Europa League, but we've got to progress under Thomas Frank. We've got to progress as a football club, and we've got to eye, top talent in transfer windows, because the likes of Romero, and we know that, he's shown or written down his discontent with the way that the club is being run at the moment. And, Mickey van der Ven is a top player. And you need to tie people like this down to new contracts. And if the likes of him he's not going to sign a new contract. We know, Craig, that he's a top talent. He could probably play anywhere in Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll come on to Mickey van der Ven in a minute, actually, because I've got something to raise about Mickey van der Ven if you want to go through your next story.
This is going to be a quick one. Fabrizio Romano has stated that West Ham are interested in signing Spurs goalkeeper Antonin Kinski. Personally, I hope that if Kinski goes out on loan, I would hope that it would be to a Premier League club rather than a Championship one. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, on a serious on a serious note, I think if Kinski goes out on loan, it is all about game time. He's got to be playing week in, week out, and I think that it's going to probably be a really good move for him because he is a top talent, young goalkeeper, and he needs game time. And it's funny, isn't it? We target all of these top talented players of a certain age, and then you're thinking, well, we can't give them the game time, so they have to think about loans. You know, on these shows that we've done, these daily Tottenham transfer news shows every day, we have been talking about loans, recalling loans, you know, players going out on loan, players coming back from loan. There are a lot of loans going on at the moment because, of course, you've got to be able to play, you've got to be able to give minutes to these guys. And it's funny, Craig, I think I mentioned this to you a couple of months ago, that back in the day, we used to have the reserves. So you'd always get game time. Well, of course, we don't have the reserves anymore. It's the under-21s. Yes, you can field a couple of over-21s, but the teams don't tend to do this. But Kinski, I think for his own development, he does need a loan.
Yeah, he probably does. It's a catch-22, isn't it, with goalkeepers? Because you're either number one or you know you're going to be not playing most of the time. So what do? Kinski goes on loan. Do they bring in somebody else or do they give it to Brandon Austin? You know, and promote him to number two, essentially. So it's a tough one. I don't know where I sit with it, if I'm brutally honest, because one injury to Vicario and Brandon Austin ago. I think Brandon Austin's a decent keeper, but Kinski, he's better than Austin, in my opinion, even though he's prone to a clanger or two. Much better with his feet than Vicario, by the way, I think, Kinski. But Vicario's probably better at shot stopping. So it's a real funny one, that one, for me. Yeah.
And the other thing I was going to say before you come on to your one, with Vicario, we've heard a lot of rumours as well about Vicario wanting a move in the summer as well. So I tell you, it does seem to look like a big summer for Tottenham, in terms of players going out the door. And of course, you know, if the club really, really want to show ambition, that is a lot longer transfer window. And, Spurs have a lot to do. If we're going to replace the goalkeeper as well, you need improvements across this whole squad at the moment. So I hope for a big, big transfer window in the summer and showing real intent and ambition.
Yeah, mind you, we're in the middle of a transfer window now, and we're talking about ambition. You know, it's two big windows, isn't it? So,
but Craig, Thomas Frank says that it is a very, very, very difficult window.
Yeah, there's a lot of verys in there, so it just gets it across to the fans just how very difficult it is. Yeah, absolutely. Sadly, it's sad to talk about another rumour about players wanted by other teams, but Mickey van der Ven, who we spoke about earlier, is apparently wanted by Liverpool, according to Team Talk. Virgil van Dijk is 33, I think, and Konate is not signing a new deal. So Liverpool, you would think, are going to be in the market in the summer for two centre-backs. One of those is apparently Mickey van der Ven, although if Real Madrid came calling, I think Mickey van der Ven, his head would be turned unless we sort out our problems. And it just comes back to what we were saying earlier, that Spurs need to show players like Mickey van der Ven that we mean business, that we're going to be competitive, and we're going to bring in players to build around the likes of Van der Ven and Romero and, you know, our better players, shall we say. So it's up to the club now, because I wouldn't blame Mickey van der Ven if he didn't sign a new deal at the moment. Why would you? So he's just sitting tight to see what happens, like the rest of us. But ultimately, the point of this story is, in my opinion, we can't let players like Mickey van der Ven leave, and we should be trying to time down to new contracts, which I'm sure they're trying to do, but won't happen at the moment.
Craig, I can't add any more to that. I think you've put that perfectly. You've hit the nail on the head. And I suppose the only thing I would say is that Mickey van der Ven could get into most teams around Europe because he is that good. And you ought to be building the team around players like this. And one thing I've really liked about Mickey van der Ven this season, he seems to be more hungrier and he seems to be more aggressive in his play. And I think when he wears that captain's armband as well, when Romero isn't there, he just looks a different player, a much better player, and like I said, more aggressive. And I like that side to him. And he's a born winner, and he's going to go to the very top in his career. So, but like you said, Spurs need to show ambition and show the likes of him and Romero we mean business and we're here to win trophies, and that's exactly the message that they need to give these players. Let's move on to ESPN Brazil report today. Richarlison wants to leave Tottenham after the World Cup this summer. Clubs in Turkey and Saudi are also interested in the player because it's also been stated that if Flamengo decide to postpone the signing of a striker until July, he will be one of their targets. And we've also heard this before about him possibly going back to Brazil. I've got to say on this one, Craig, I am not surprised if Richarlison leaves Spurs in the summer at all. But this is a position, obviously, that Tottenham are looking to strengthen in as well. One huge plus, one huge positive this season that he has stayed fit. He's been available to Thomas Frank. Yes, he scored goals. But of course, we all expect a lot more from him. And when we've gone from that forward line of Son and Kane and co., we always expect so much more in that final third. I think all Spurs fans do. But Spurs, again, we go back to that point of we need to show ambition. We need to get top quality players in. I will always wish every single player that leaves our football club well. But I'm not at all surprised by this one, and I won't be at all surprised to see Richie leave in the summer.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. He's probably a bit unfair on any striker coming in that we're always going to compare him to Son and Kane. Perhaps that's obviously going to drift over time as that gets further back in the past. But Richarlison was here. He was brought in as a Harry Kane backup, I suppose, or somebody to challenge Harry Kane. But you've got to be special to challenge Harry Kane. So he was always on a bit of a losing battle there. But it just seems right. The right time this time in the summer that Richarlison leaves for me. I can't really put it any better than that. He's done a job. He's actually played well the last few games, to be fair to him, but inconsistency. You could argue as a number 9 he hasn't been getting the service, and I would actually back him up on that. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if we sell him. But hey, comes back to it, we've got to bring somebody in to replace him, and better if we're going to go down that road. My last story today is about Jia Palhinha, about a possible, from TalkSport, this was that Spurs they're a bit in limbo. They're not sure whether they're going to make Palhinha's loan permanent in the summer. It's a funny one, isn't it? Palhinha is another player that kind of splits the fan base, yet you saw what he can do on Wednesday with that brilliant overhead kick. And, we all thought he got us a point, but didn't work out that way in the end. What I would say about Palhinha, and this is just my opinion, people don't rate him. They think he's a bit one-dimensional, and I get all that. But I think, personally, with the right formation and right style of play, you put players in and around Palhinha, and all of a sudden he becomes an incredibly important player in your team. Whereas at the moment, I don't think he's utilised particularly well, and that's why it can look like it's we've all seen the Palhinha and Bentancur partnership. People just don't like to see it, do they? But you put Palhinha in there with the right players, perhaps just on his own as a number 6, and I think you see a totally different. You might change your opinion on it. So that's kind of where I am at it. I guess we'll see in the summer what the club want to do. Is this going to be a club sort of signing, or will he move on to pastures new? I genuinely don't know. I can probably see this could go either way.
He had such a great start to his Tottenham spell this season under Thomas Frank, and I think if you'd have asked people a month into the season, I think everyone would have said, yes, we've got to do this deal. Yeah. But I do think it is the best thing for a football club to do, to decide at the end of the season, because Spurs do have that option. So why make that choice now? Let's see how the season pans out. He may not even want to join, Craig. So let's wait and see. But yeah, I think he's a great player. I think that he is in the team to do a certain job. And I think that some fans do expect a lot more from him, but it depends what message is from the manager and the coaching staff. You are in the team to do X, Y, and Z. And I think some people expect him to do, outside of that as well. But that's not why he's in the team. But yeah, great goal at Bournemouth. And he scored a few goals for us this season. Last couple of ones from me. We've got Sky Germany stating that Spurs are one of the teams monitoring Kevin Schade ahead of the summer transfer window. He could leave Brentford, and he's valued at 50 to 60 million euros. And another one in the forward area from Football Insider: Tottenham told Wolves plan to accept £40 million offer. Wolves could accept an offer of £40 million for Strand Larsen this month, amid continued interest in his services from Tottenham. Strand Larsen has been unable to replicate his form at Wolves from last season, with just 3 goals in 22 appearances so far. Let me ask you about Strand Larsen. What do you think of him as a striker, Craig? And 3 goals in 22 appearances this season. Of course, Wolves are really struggling. If you take those stats out of the equation, what do you think of him as an overall striker in the Premier League?
I'm not sure why we're even considering this player, to be honest with you. With the greatest respect, look, he's in a poor Wolves team. Of course he is. And would he score more goals in a team that create a bit more? Perhaps he would. But in my opinion, we should be going for players, bigger name players, players that have got better goal returns, stuff like that. I mean, you ask Wolves fans, your mate Dazzling Dave, I'm not sure what he thinks about Strand Larsen. I think they love him at Wolves, don't they, for the song they sang that a lot of you will know. So they certainly would want to keep him. I just don't see how he's an upgrade on Richarlison, perhaps, Would the fans? I suppose that's the question to ask people, isn't it? Would the fans be happy if we sold Richarlison and brought in Strand Larsen as a replacement? And for me, would Strand Larsen get into
we need to
top
upgrade.
Side?
We need to upgrade players, Craig, and this is probably the problem with the recruitment in the past couple of years. We need to upgrade players rather than downgrade players, and I think that's very, very fair to say that we have downgraded a number of players. Whenever a top quality player has left, we've brought in somebody who isn't quite at that level. We've just lived in hope they would get up to that level, and a lot of them haven't. Yeah, that's all I've got today. But for those just tuning in, we have been given a here we go today from Fabrizio Romano. Souza to Tottenham, €15 million fee as verbal agreement has been reached. Craig, any more, or is that a lot?
That's a lot for me today.
Brilliant. Right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And we will be back again tomorrow for another daily Tottenham transfer news show. Have a great weekend, everyone. Let's hope that Spurs can make it past Aston Villa in the FA Cup and be in the hat for the next round on Saturday evening. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks so much for joining us. And remember, all of these episodes are available on audio platforms as well. Come on, you Spurs.
We'll be right back.